So, hello and welcome to the New World. I'm your host, Abhinav Sridhar, and today with me, I have Marcia Moran, a successful author. Marcia, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone.
Okay,
So, you want more of an introduction? That's okay. So, I'm coming from Centerville, Virginia. And the thing people don't know is I have two cats and one bird, and the bird is kind of scared.
so, Marcia, why don't you just tell them about your book? Because, in all honesty, I took a peek at your book, and it's amazing. I think people should know about it at the start because that's the first thing they listen to.
Okay. So, I wrote Stroke Forward, and it's about how to become your own healthcare advocate one step at a time. And I wrote it because I unfortunately had a stroke and I didn't know anything about advocacy. My husband didn't know anything about advocacy. And so he had to learn step by step how he had to deal with things. And I decided that it was a shame, really, to go into the hospital and have to start from scratch. So this tells you a little bit about the things that we did and hopefully gives other people some advice.
Hmm. So, when you say an advocate for your own health, do you mean that this basically teaches us how to detect and like, teaches us the different steps that we should take once, or if at any point of time one of our loved ones or one of our friends or anyone we take care of gets a stroke?
So it gives you some guidelines. I'm not going to say it tells you what to do because everybody's stroke is different.
Hmm.
But so if you have a stroke and like I couldn't speak, so my husband suddenly had to speak up for me, right? And there are all these things that are happening. So for example, I couldn't swallow. So they fed me liquids, right?
Hmm.
And so I had to drink, looking forward, turn to the side, swallow, and look forward again. So one day the hospital forgot to send fluids, and they said chicken, and I went, woohoo, chicken! I ate it and I choked. Well, the bad thing about dysphagia, which it's called, is that I don't have a choking sensor, so I could choke and people wouldn't know, right? So I could it could go down the wrong pipe, go into my lungs, and I could get pneumonia, right? So it's really serious. So they actually did catch it and got it out of my mouth. But that's when my husband learned that I could have died. And he was really worried about that. So he really stood up and said, I have to know everything.
Oh my god! Like, so I'm very confused. A hospital made such a scary and dire mistake. It could potentially be fatal. So how did your family react to that?
So, okay, so we just thought we're going to have to take care of ourselves, right? So I also fell off the toilet. So the nurse came in, put me on the toilet, went out to make the bed. Well, I had a stroke. I didn't have any muscles on my right hand side. So, of course, I fell off the toilet, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Again, it's like my husband said, wait a minute, I have to make sure that I'm with her so that it doesn't matter who comes in and who goes, at least I'm with her, at least if I'm in the hospital. So it was interesting. I'll just say that.
Okay. So, one thing that I've always noticed is when there's a stroke victim or anyone who's had any issues, like, any health issues, one thing I always find out is that people don't remember them for the person they were before, but rather the issues that they faced in their lives. I feel like that becomes their identity. So, with this podcast, I want to learn more about you as a person. That means, obviously, it having a stroke will change your life in a multitude of ways. That's always going to be there. But I want to know you as you. So, like I was just looking around doing some research beforehand, and I found that you actually got a degree in political science.
Yes, I did a long time ago, and I haven't used it.
So, but what did you plan to do with that? Like, what career did you plan to pursue with the degree in political science?
Well, I had actually planned to be an attorney. And when I got to the end of my 4 years, I thought, I don't want any more school. So I went to work, got married. And when I got married, I decided to go back to school and I got an MBA, a master's in business. Yeah. And I did something with that.
Hmm. So, like, uh, I've actually seen that. So, I've heard that you help, like, previously you helped businesses bounce back from any issues. Can you just elaborate on it?
So I started my own business in 2014, and it was about helping companies rebrand themselves because in America, a lot of companies say they do this, right? And if you're on the other side and you're a customer, you look at that and you go, I'm not going to buy from you because I don't really think you do this. I think you do this. So I rebranded them so that what they said they did, they actually did.
Oh, so that means you do feel like throughout your career you've done a lot and built and been like involved in multiple businesses. Sorry. So, what is the biggest failure you've encountered when you found out like in one of those businesses when you had to rebrand? What exactly happened?
Well, actually, I think I did the rebranding of those businesses really well. So I'm going to talk about a different business where I worked with them. And it was a software company. And we had two visions for where the business would go. And one person or one pillar of the company wanted to do one thing, and another pillar of the company wanted to do a different thing. And they never met eye to eye. So I wrote the business plans. We actually we got funded, or we were about to get funded. But the company broke up because we couldn't see eye to eye. And without communication, there was no way we could survive.
That's true. Communication is key.
It's key. And it's so sad because what I thought the business would do was so cool. So it was at the point where the internet was still pretty young. And I was in Australia and I could get my email from Australia and send it to somewhere else. So, and that was in the year 2000. So that was really key. But
They just didn't want to do that.
the pillar said, no, we don't want to do that. It's like, okay.
I mean, you can only take a horse to the lake, but you can't make it drink the water. I think that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like you did your MBA and you did a degree in political science. So, can you tell us about your university life? Like, how was university?
I would say it's different. So I went to school in North Dakota, and the winters are really harsh there. The summers are really good. And I think I didn't fit in. So when I sat in my political science class and the teachers were up speaking, they read the book to us, and it's like, I can read the book myself. So I showed up for quizzes and tests and not much else. And they didn't like that. So they said something to me. It's like, okay, I guess I have to come to class too.
Like, this full part of your life, I feel like it was a very successful journey for you. Like, getting out of like high school, then going to then like pursuing political science, then doing your degree in MBA, like doing an MBA. So, like, that's the stepping stones to a successful career. And then suddenly your life changed. Just one day. Can you describe that day, that one day?
Yeah. So it was a Sunday morning, and I woke up and I felt odd. And so I went, I'm not going to make breakfast. So I texted my friend Rochelle to tell her I wouldn't be coming to breakfast. And I saw that I couldn't read the text. I thought, well, that's really odd. So I thought, I'll text her later. I put my phone down. I rolled over and I got the worst headache right here. And despite the pain, I fell asleep. That is the worst thing to do. Of course, I didn't know I was having a stroke. Yeah. So when I woke up, I was paralyzed on the right-hand side. So I fell out of bed and dragged myself across the carpet using my left hand till I got to the door, which was closed. And I had to reach up and grab the handle. And I couldn't reach it because I was stuck on the ground, kind of. And finally, I got the door, snuck open just a little bit. And I was sweaty and tired. So I took a break. I can't tell you how long I took a break. And finally, I got enough energy to move down the hall. And I totally ran out of gas. It's like, I couldn't move. I thought, well, at least my husband is home, so he's going to come upstairs. Crash. I don't know what fell, but Jim came upstairs and he saw me. He said, Marcia, are you okay? And that's when I found I couldn't talk.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he called 911 and the paramedics arrived pretty soon. And they said, when did she have her stroke? And my husband and I hadn't thought of the word stroke. So I was 53. I was in good health. I ran 3 or 4 times a week. I had no cholesterol problems. We were flabbergasted. So I actually lost consciousness on the way to the hospital. And when I woke up, I had a hospital gown on. I'm going to say yuck, because they're really ugly. I had a needle in my arm, and my husband was by my side. Yeah.
How did you feel when you woke up next to your husband and you just couldn't speak? Like, I'm pretty sure you tried saying something or the other, but you just couldn't say anything.
Well, I was happy to be alive. I was delighted that my husband was there. I was a little freaked out that I couldn't speak.
That's natural. If it's not natural, then I don't know what is natural.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the speaking disorder I had, which was aphasia, lasted for 3.5 years. So the National Aphasia Association says that if you have aphasia more than 3 months, you probably have it for life. So most people look at that and say, darn, now I have it for life. I mean, they get better over time, right? But I didn't like that statistic. And so I looked around and I actually found a couple of therapies that helped me, but it took a long time. It took me, the first therapy was in 2 years after my stroke. And the third therapy, or the second therapy that was, in my mind, life-changing for me, happened 3.5 years after the stroke. So the first therapy was laser therapy. And they take a cold laser, and they put it on the place where you had the stroke. And they ask you to do the cross crawl, which is where you go up and down with your arms and legs, the right arm and left leg, and then okay. And that actually got me about 40% better, maybe 50% better, which is better. But still, I had aphasia. I went to a doctor and he started something called neurofeedback. microcurrent neurofeedback. And he said, Marcia, you have to try this. I said, what is it? And he said, go home and look at this website. It tells you about the manufacturer. I looked at the website and it said all things about ADHD, anxiety, autism. And the one thing that I found that was really interesting, it said that 85% of traumatic brain injury survivors get better when they use this neurofeedback machine. I went, I have to try it, right?
There's no other shot.
Exactly. So I went in and he put this cream on my head that I call cat spit because it's wet, sticky, kind of gritty.
Oh.
And it's to keep the electrodes on your head, right? They had 2 positive, 2 negative at ground. He started the neurofeedback device and I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing, right? I went, okay, is he fooling me? But I talk better when I get home. Not a lot better, but a little bit better. So after 16 sessions, I talk like I do now. It's amazing.
It's basically like a miracle at this point.
That's what I think.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure you must have done your research on neurofeedback. So, what exactly does it do in the brain? Like, do you know anything about that? Or is it just like, I went and got it, that's all?
Well, so they don't really know. Yeah, that's what I said. Because I talked to the guy who actually invented the device, and they haven't done enough studies on what it actually does. But I will tell you that it uses 1/100th of a AAA battery to pulse your brain. And yeah, they know some things about it, but I don't think I could really talk about it because it's, they don't really know.
So, I mean, basically, when you look into when you see such a device and you're in that situation where you want to get back and start speaking again, I think there's no other option. You're just like, you know what, it's either hit out or get out. Like that's the type of thing. So when I'm pretty sure this must have been like a pretty scary experience because you didn't know what to expect when.
No. So I do know that it doesn't hurt you. So I went in kind of with an open mind. It'll either work or it won't work. And I'm just going to wait and see what it does. And I am glad that I did, because otherwise I'd probably be still speaking with aphasia or not speaking. Because with aphasia, sometimes you don't speak at all.
So when you speak about aphasia, speak about aphasia. Okay, so like when you talk to people about aphasia and their effects on a major traumatic brain injury, how much do you think it affects their daily life? Like, how did you feel knowing that for 3.5 years I couldn't say stuff? Did you ever feel like you lost touch with the moment, or did you always be like, I'm going to embrace the moment, but maybe if I can't say anything, I'll just listen to it, every second of it, and hope I can remember it?
No, you get really frustrated. And sometimes I shut down and kind of walked away from my husband, or when I was in a social setting, I would just shut down and be quiet. And it's like every time that you don't speak up, that you can't speak up, you lose a little piece of yourself. So it's kind of demoralizing. What I'm going to say is that please don't do what I did, which was shut down. Please try to say something. If you can't say something, just stay and listen. I joined Toastmasters, which is something that a whole lot of people.
Public speaking, basically.
Exactly right. I didn't speak for 7 months. Right. Okay. The first time that I actually did my icebreaker speech. Now, I did it at home and it worked just fine, right? I got up there, I stood in front of the class or the group. I said the first sentence, I'm going, woohoo, I'm going to make it. I couldn't say the second sentence.
Oh.
I tried 7 times, right? I finally said the second sentence, finished my speech, and sat down. And I felt so proud. Not because the speech was so good, because it wasn't, but I had actually accomplished something.
I feel like the dedication and the effort to just do what you came to do, I think that's what pushed you through it. Because, I mean, when you have to speak after not being able to speak for so long, or not wanting to speak for so long, I feel like you're, instead of mind over body, I mean, instead of body over mind, it becomes mind over body. As soon as you want to do something that you just weren't able to do, and you just felt like doing it again and again, it just goes through you. It's like the thing about dedication: if you want to do something, it's 100% you can do it. And I feel like that's the mindset that you move forward with. If correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's a little bit more complex than that. So I got lucky and I found somebody who did neurofeedback and it worked for me, right? So it doesn't work for everyone. We know that because 15% of traumatic brain injury survivors don't get better. Maybe somebody will get better, but it won't be all the way like I did. So, I mean, I'm just one person, so I don't know. The thing that people should know is that they should always try to get better. It doesn't matter how weird it is. If the therapy sounds like it won't do you any harm, then you should at least consider doing it.
I feel like that's there in a lot of stuff in life. If it doesn't hurt you, then there's no harm in trying. So when you got a stroke, and like after the stroke, you must have obviously checked how many people in the US actually get strokes like in a year or.
Okay, so almost 800,000 people have them every year. There are 4.5 million people who are stroke survivors in the United States.
I'm speechless. Like, how does someone go through such a traumatic experience and just want to, like, the thing is, when someone has a stroke, what do you think are the first few thoughts in their mind?
It is very different from, I mean, so every stroke is different. So it depends on who you are. So I thought of my stroke as, okay, this terrible thing happened to me. What am I going to do to get better? And that was my thought every single day. Now, I'm not going to say that I wasn't saddened. And I had a few moments now and then. I said, okay, your moment is over. You're not going to feel sorry for yourself. What are you going to do to get better?
I like that. That's the thing about life, you know. The thing about humans actually, they always learn to look at the better side. And if you don't, or if you just can't look at the better side, then it just becomes much harder to do anything that actually helps you. Because when even like, you know, when I'm feeling down, instead of going deeper and deeper down into those thoughts, and obviously I am not going to say that I was anywhere near your level of, like, you know, because personally I haven't faced it, and I pray that I won't. And it's just that, how do you get past it? Because I mean, you said it multiple times by now, but the thing is, I'm not able to understand that one thing. How does someone have that will to get back to normal so much that they try everything? Because, you know, if it were me, I would be scared out of my mind. Like, you know, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think about. I don't know where I'd be, because I'm speaking with you right now because I can. If I was affected by the same thing, I wouldn't know what to do. I would go down the dark spiraling loop of, sadness and depression. But when you persevere through it, how do you think others can too? Because you said every stroke is different, everyone is different, but I'm pretty sure there's one defining factor of your life that you think can fit for everyone.
So I'm gritty. So I think I made my first decision the day I had my stroke. It was, I'm going to get up and find help, or I'm going to stay here and die. Right. And so I'm going to tell you that the things I tried scared me. And sometimes I was scared out of my mind, but I still tried them. And you have to be willing to try and fail, because you're going to fail a lot after you've had a stroke. And if you try and you fail and you give up, then you're not going to get better. So neuroplasticity is a groove that you build over time around the things that you can't do anymore. So, for example, my shoulder and arm and stuff were damaged, right? And so I worked for a year and a half stretching every day before I could get better, you know? So I have full motion in my arms. Does it hurt still? Yeah, a little bit. There's a little pain, but I can move it all the way.
Well, I mean, you spoke about neuroplasticity. I I personally know it because I'm a biology student, but I'm pretty sure the majority of the the viewers or listeners won't know it. Why don't you just give them a brief uh, thing about what neuroplasticity is?
Well, I'd like to turn it around and say you should give it because you are in a position where you know it. So come on.
Okay, so what I understand of neuroplasticity, it's basically the ability of the brain to form and reorganize the synaptic connections, which are basically the main factors of the the brain and the nervous system, which can actually help in regaining movement. Or let's say an example would be, if you had an injury, you can learn to get back your motion. And at least that's what I know, because if I'm not wrong, in my textbook the example that's given is neuroplasticity offers real hope to everyone who suffers from a stroke or even have dyslexia, because the thing is, the brain learns to rewire itself, the brain learns to persevere through the darkest of times. And that's how I remembered it.
Yep. So, but it means that you have to work on something every single day. Right. And if you take a day off, I'm going to say okay. If you take 2 days off, it's not okay because you're going in the wrong direction after 2 days. So if you work on something every single day, eventually you hope it will get better. And that's just it. I mean, I don't know for sure if I say you will get better, but if you try every single day, it could be 10 years down the road, you can still get better. Like there are people who've been in a wheelchair for 10 years and they have suddenly have the strength to stand up because they've, in their mind, gone through the struggle every day. And suddenly they can stand up, which is
And
a lot.
I mean, the thing is, where I've also heard of neuroplasticity is when in car crash victims. So when they get paralyzed, they have like that full rehab training, trying to learn how to walk again. And I think for the viewers to understand what neuroplasticity is, the process of relearning from the brain and the neurons from the brain till the body, that's basically what neuroplasticity is. It's rewiring every single thing that you know. Just imagine being born again and learning how to walk, or learning how to move your arms, or learning how to move your fingers.
So that's the really challenging thing, is because when you learn to walk again, it's not only your arms or it's not only your legs that move, but your arm moves too. So when I learned to walk again, my arm wasn't moving. So when we went outside and we were walking, I was thinking, pick up your right leg, move it forward, set it down, up, down, move. Okay. So when it was finally moving, kind of, then I had to think about my arm. It's like forward, back, forward, back. And you have to think about them. So, and I was thinking forward, back for a long time. And then finally I realized, okay, it's moving. So then I had to think about my hand because it wasn't moving. So it is a lot that you have to think about before you actually walk.
So, I mean, now that you went through the full thing and you want people to learn, but I just want to know, why do you write about advocacy instead of your own story? Like, what made you feel that instead of publishing my story as an individual, why do I need to make sure the public knows about the steps that I took, or at least the steps that, or at least the guidelines that I used?
Okay. So Stroke Forward is for the stroke survivor, stroke caregivers, and people who want to be advocates. And it's written by me about my story, but it's also written by my caregivers, my husband, my sister, my friends, some doctors that I saw, because everyone involved in a stroke has a very different perspective. So when I say something about my stroke, my husband has no, that's not how it was for me.
I mean, that's there for everything. There's always two sides to the same coin.
Right. So I think it's important to understand that everybody has their own perspective. And it is on becoming a healthcare advocate. So actually, at the end of each chapter, I have the take action section. Oops.
Yeah.
So and that take action section helps people see, oh, this is a really important thing that I might consider doing. So for example, dysphagia, the choking, 65% of people who've had a stroke have dysphagia. So that means that you should be sure that the hospital patient doesn't get chicken, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Or here's another one, nap when you need to. You know, it might be that you can only get up for a short time. Let that be enough, et cetera, et cetera. So just things to think about, right?
So, like, when you got a stroke and you said that this book is actually about everyone's uh learnings in the process of getting back to where you are today, did you ever feel like you were a burden?
No,
Because, like, personally, my worry is that if I ever feel unwell and like fall sick, like really bad, I don't want to be that guy who makes everyone stop what they're achieving, stop what they're doing, just to come and help me. I feel like I should fend for myself, but in another way is I can't think of myself as a burden because I can't help myself. That's the only reason I need the help. So, what was your take on that?
so yeah, you're a burden for a while, but I didn't look at it as being a burden. It's like, what can I accomplish so that when I get better, I will be able to contribute to society as a whole? So the first thing is Stroke Forward. It took me 4.5 years to write it. And some of it was my hand went out of sync, right? So I didn't type very well. The other thing is I had aphasia. So it was very hard for me to think of the word. It was hard for me to then remember how to spell the word. It was
I know what you're talking about.
so, but that's just one thing. So now I'm done with the book and I'm thinking, okay, now what else can I do? So I'm actually going to be a stroke that I'm taking a coaching class on diet and life. So now I'm going to go back and teach stroke survivors and caretakers what they can do if they want to have a healthy life, because we eat so badly now in our country that they say 80% of people who have a stroke could prevent it, right?
It's true.
So there's diet, there's exercise, there's smoking. Do you smoke? Yeah, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Do you drink too much? So there's a whole lot of things that they can do that will help them get better if they want.
So, I mean, when you move forward and you are coaching people, do you really feel like strokes, at least in the US, are like, do you think they should be taught to people more, like, so that it should be more of general knowledge rather than actual, oh my god, someone got a stroke? Because from what I learned personally, like, through my own free time, is if you ever suspect that someone's going or having a stroke, then you should always use the fast mechanism, like, the face, then, uh, I forgot the rest. Oh my god. Do you remember fast?
So I actually like B fast. So B is balance, E is eyes. So have they had a change in their vision? F is face. Is it drooping? A is arms. I say arms and legs because I think that you can also have a problem with your leg. S is speech, and T is for time. Call 911 or whatever
the number is. Yeah,
yeah.
Obviously. So what do you think can be done to advocate more about strokes, or at least teach people more about strokes? Like, what is something that you or I as an individual can do?
Well, I go to stroke conferences and talk. I think that eventually I will be on TV telling the nation that they have to. I mean, seriously.
It's a goal. It's a life goal. You need people to know how to get out of that one time, or at least learn how to respond to it.
Exactly. So I think at some point the TV station is going to say, "Hey, come on, we need somebody to talk about this."
You know what? I will personally try my best to make that happen. So,
Thank you very much.
I know it sounds very weird right now, but I will try getting in contact with people, because your message is something that should be spread, because it's not like some random influencer of 2021 where, oh, I have this much cash or something like that. This is a life skill that people should learn, because if you don't have an idea how to react to something like this, you can potentially cause another person to die, or even die yourself. This is a life or death situation. This is a life or death response. So when I look at TV and I see, oh, that celebrity stopped dating another celebrity, I'm just like, okay, I care so much because I want to listen to this. That's 100% what I want to listen to. That's obviously not the case, but the thing is, something as, I wouldn't say simple, but rather as important as learning how to respond is key to surviving, because we all need to learn our life stories. And the whole point of this podcast is to speak with people and learn from their experiences. And if I if I'm not mistaken, when I first started this, actually the reason I started this is because I was planning to start a podcast and all that, but I saw your page and I was just like, she is the first person I want on the podcast. Obviously, that didn't happen because of a few logistical issues, but when I read your page, that's when it hit me. The goal is not to be famous, the goal is not to be cool, the goal is to learn. Especially if you learn from someone who went through it, you learn and you'll remember. That's why I am not joking. You were the first person I actually emailed.
And I responded right away.
Yes, yes, you did. You responded the next day, and I was so happy. I could remember. I was like, "Oh my god, that actually happened!" Because I didn't expect a reply. Because I was like, "Oh, okay, let me try my luck. It wouldn't hurt me." So I'm actually really happy to be here because I have a full team over here, and like I let the team select who's gonna do what, but I have that personal connection, and I was just like, you know what, I want to speak with Marcia. So yeah, that's what happened. So let's move back to the topic. Uh, what do you need to do? Like, I know this is not TV, but what is the most important or the most safest or appropriate thing to do when you see someone who's having a stroke?
Um, so you need to call 911 or whatever your numbers are right away. Every moment or every minute, to be specific, a person loses 1.9 million neurons in their brain. So that's a lot. So I don't know how long I was out, but uh, I lost this much in my brain right here.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm stunned because I've heard of stories where people were just doing minor operations in the brain, like very less, like very, I wouldn't say non-invasive, but slightly invasive, and one nick is enough to cause a massive issue. But you're saying something as big as a complete
A
circle.
walnut or yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, in my brain. Yeah.
damn, that's crazy. I can't
So
believe it.
I didn't even know that. So I was in having an MRI a couple years after my stroke, and the the tech said something. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, I'm not supposed to tell you anything." It's like, "Oh, come on, now you have to." I said, "Well, it's as big as a walnut." And it's like, "Really?"
It's like you just don't know about it, and then suddenly one day it's like, ah, yeah, yeah, okay, I learned it now. So,
Yeah.
okay, when the full hospital incident happened, when you choked on chicken without quite a few people knowing it, and then suddenly they responded, I'm pretty sure you had your own doubts in the future when it came to going to any other doctor or any other hospital. So,
No,
no,
I
never.
didn't. So I was afraid of going to the doctor before I had my stroke. After I knew that I will go to the doctor for the rest of my life. But the interesting thing is the neurologist they provided to me after I had my stroke, I didn't like him. So I stopped going to see him. And I asked stroke survivors who they went to and said, and I went to somebody that was recommended to me from stroke survivors. And I think that's really important. If you don't like the doctor, you have to switch because there's nothing good that's going to happen out of that relationship. You and your doctor have to be in sync.
So, what do you do if you don't agree with your doctor other than switching? Like, I'm pretty sure few people just can't switch. Like, if there's insurance in play or, if something like that is in play. I know I've at least heard a few stories where people don't switch, like, can't switch, not don't. What do you think they can do?
So I would say that they should probably talk to their insurance company and make them understand that there's a real problem and make the insurance company allow them to switch.
Hmm.
It may take a while,
But it's
but
worth it.
you have to like your doctor. If you
Okay.
don't like your doctor, then
You just feel it's not worth going through the full treatment because you just won't believe it.
well, okay, so if you believe you're going to get better, that means you have to have a positive attitude. If you don't like your doctor, you don't have a positive attitude about him or the things that he's suggesting. Therefore, I don't think you're going to get better.
That actually makes a lot of sense because that's just a fact. Because it all depends right here. No matter what happens, even if the issue is here, I think it all boils down to that. So I just have two more questions.
Okay.
I read this question on your page and I didn't understand it. So I just want to ask you the question and I just hope you can explain it to me. So the question was, Do holistic or functional doctors make a difference in treatment?
They do.
So, what does that mean? What does the question mean?
So holistic doctors look at the whole body. And so I went to holistic doctors who recommended that I try, for example, neurofeedback. If I'd stayed with regular doctors, I would have never been amazed at what neurofeedback could actually do for me. I would have still been aphasic. And they'd say, well, there's nothing we can do for you. You've been through speech therapy. That's all we can do. So I say, if you look outside of the classical realm of medicine, and you can find a doctor who does things a little differently, and you can be sure that it's safe, try it.
Always take that one step, the scariest step, but the step that you'll probably never regret, or at least hopefully never regret. So, this is actually a very, I don't know if I can call it a deep question, but after having a near death experience, are you really afraid of death?
No, I'm not.
Like,
Do you want more? We all die, right? I'm prepared to die. So if I get hit by a bus today, I've had a full life. I've done as much as I can with where I'm at today. So as long as I get up every day and try to be better and more productive, that's all you can work for.
that hits right here, like, right in the heart. I think that's true. There's nothing else that you can do. You just have to learn to appreciate life and just know that what you did and what you contributed was more than enough, and you should just learn to move forward.
And you have to respect the nature around you,
True.
because that's part of life too.
This podcast is actually really a different type of one because, you know, we've spoken to other people and it's been much more different, but because that one was more of comedy based, but this is something that hits right in the heart, like, this could happen to anyone. But
It could. So I had a carotid artery dissection, and that happens to 1% to 2% of the people, and they don't know why. So I literally had a stroke and nobody knows why.
that's really surprising. But on that note, I think people should read your book. If they want more information, they should move forward with Stroke Forward, because that is the book that is the go to for everyone who is affected by a stroke, the caregivers, or anything around that. So, everyone who's listening, please read Marcia's book. I personally, with the small segments that I've seen, I feel like it can teach everyone the life skills required and it'll at least give them a perspective. So, thank you all for listening. This was Welcome to the New World. Have a great day.